Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast, where faith meets the front lines of culture.
We break down what's happening in the world, what's behind it, and how believers can stand strong in truth.
We're not here to fear the times, we're here to understand them.
Because being watchmen means staying awake, staying ready, and staying grounded in the Word.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast. And tonight we are going to talk about all of the many conspiracy theories out there. Just thought it would be a fun topic to just kind of see where it goes. I don't know where we want to start as far as just listing off the many ones, but
You're so much better at this.
We were discussing off camera, off the air, about the importance of differentiating between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory, which I was a little confused on in relation to like what Wendy meant by that. But
I'm trying to clarify that there actually are conspiracies. That what a conspiracy is when two or more people get together and secretly do something, usually it's to break a law, or we had a good definition there. Can I read it?
Yeah.
Again. And I was just making a distinction between, a conspiracy is basically an agreement between two or more people to secretly work together towards an unlawful, harmful, or deceitful goal. In plain language, it's when a group plots something in the shadows that they don't want others to know about, usually because it breaks the law or violates trust. So a conspiracy is a real thing. The term conspiracy theory oftentimes refers to the way that I think of a conspiracy theory is something that is an alternative to the accepted narrative, right? Something that you can't necessarily prove outright. And it's usually an alternative theory to what is currently accepted as the straightforward narrative, right?
Yes, it was coined by the deep state CIA
after JFK
to describe people who
were not accepted,
disagreed with the Warren Commission's explanation of JFK's assassination, which was the lone gunman, magic bullet, all that stuff. For those of you who are kind of familiar with that's like JFK is like the ultimate conspiracy, right?
Here's how I would define that. I think it's very clear that there was a conspiracy. Okay. Now, that just means that I think there's two or more people in on some plan that broke a law or was in some way harmful, or I don't think that the straightforward narrative of the Warren Commission is the truth. I think there was a conspiracy behind it. Now, we can talk about the various conspiracy theories, which would be like all the different scenarios that it could be. Does that make sense? But are you listening to what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's what I was delineating, is that there are actually conspiracies, like we use the example off camera of Trump was impeached for, or accused of having a conspiracy with Putin to undermine the election, right? And
Russian collusion.
Russia, as Trump calls it. He was accused of a conspiracy. Okay. Well, come to find out, there was actually a conspiracy. You're going to have to help me with the names. Comey, Hillary.
Oh, there were so many. Adam Schiff.
Yes.
The guy from,
They got together, those people, and made up a story and accused Trump of this conspiracy. So they themselves, there is a conspiracy there. It's just not the one that most people think it is. Most people still think that that Trump colluded with Putin. That is still something people think, even though that conspiracy has been disproven for another conspiracy. So what I was just trying to say is there are real conspiracies that have been proven. A conspiracy is just two or more people working together secretly, usually to do harm or break a law. Okay.
Right.
There are lots of conspiracies that are proven. So not every scenario that people talk about are theories. Oftentimes
So-
they're proven all the way.
Like, because I actually think conspiracy theories, it's not the adequate description for what we're talking about. It's just the common nomenclature that we use, which is fine. It's just like any other.
What would be a better...
Well, so because like not all of it is, every conspiracy theory does not revolve around a conspiring of two or more people specifically.
Oh, I bet you they all do.
I mean, yes and no. What I like to refer to them as personally, that isn't as popular, I guess, but it's just like the alternative narrative. So we're told a story about something, right? And we talked about this in one of our very first episodes. There's the reality of whatever actually happened. There's the story we're told about the reality. And then there's also the chaos of all the untrue things that get thrown out in there. Because, like, let's just use Charlie Kirk's assassination in the first 5 hours, people are showing video of SD cards getting removed from cameras and this did it, and all these, and this guy touched his arm weird, and like not all of it mattered, but people are throwing all this extra stuff into it. So there's like, that's what I'm getting at, is there's the narrative we're given about what happened. There's the actual real event that happened, which is not always possible to find out exactly what happened because maybe there were no witnesses left alive or whatever. And then there's the conspiracy theory or the alternative narrative of going, this is what we're told, but actually we think what's more accurate is this narrative is what actually happened.
Right, but it remains a theory because it's almost never provable.
That's the thing.
So to call it an alternative narrative feels like...
Well, here's the thing. The narrative is also not necessarily provable. Like, look at the narrative around the Charlie Kirk assassination. Sure, you can believe it, but we're literally all of us have digested that narrative and are going, that is like some of it, and that's the important thing. Some of it might be true, but not necessarily all of it, and what parts are true and what parts aren't true. And that's why it's really, I look at the whole world of conspiracy theories is really just alternative narrative, like what actually happened versus...
Every alternative narrative that ever pops up is a suggested conspiracy. There's never like currently, to use Charlie Kirk, currently the narrative is there was one guy that woke up and had an idea and shot Charlie from the top of a roof. That is the current narrative, not a conspiracy. Just one man, right?
Right.
Okay, so every alternative theory or narrative that I have heard is two or more people conspiring to kill Charlie, right? That is like every other scenario outside of the official narrative is a suggested conspiracy, right? So that's why you get this. It's almost always it's a suggested conspiracy. That's why I think alternative narrative is not the best word, because truly people are always suggesting a conspiracy theory. And
well,
again,
like, what about
the term conspiracy theory almost has a negative connotation because you automatically assume it's not true.
What about like the Mandela effect? Like, is that a... And
explain the Mandela.
So the Mandela effect is, it's basically, it came from a group of people who remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison in like the 80s or 90s, but he did not. And
is he dead now?
He's dead now as of like 2013 or something like that.
Are we Mandela'd?
What do you mean?
Like, is he for real dead?
I think he hasn't done an interview since 2013. I'll say that he's dead according to...
Neither has Clint Eastwood
himself.
And he's apparently still
Since
alive.
2013.
It's probably true.
I don't even know what to say to that. The Mandela effect, but like a couple other examples of the Mandela effect. I don't know, there's like lines in movies that people remember differently. So the Mandela effect is like when society remembers something one way collectively, but then like the reality is not that. So I'm not a big, like, I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on the Mandela effect, but it is an intriguing one. But like the one that I am like 100% sure on, you know what I mean? That I'm fallen for, if you will, or am convinced of, is Fruit of the Loom. Was there a cornucopia?
Oh yeah.
Or was there not a cornucopia of fruit? But that the fruit was spilling out of.
Well, I feel like you're setting me up to say there
Well,
was a cornucopia.
no, but it's what I'm sorry, I didn't mean to set you up one way or the other. But what do you think? Like, what do you remember in your consciousness, in your memory?
Well, now I picture a cornucopia.
I remember there was a cornucopia.
But there isn't.
And Fruit of the Loom swears there never, ever, ever was. Well, where did we remember a cornucopia from? Like, I'm just made it up?
Because, like, lots of people remember cornucopia?
Yes.
Okay. I see.
Now, I know that Fruit of the Loom doesn't have one anymore and hasn't for a long time, but, like, when I was a kid, there was definitely...
Okay, here's another one. This I remember. Do you remember Mr. Bucket when we were kids?
Buckets of Fun?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm Mr. Bucket. You put the balls in my mouth. I'm Mr. Bucket. No.
Shooting them out or something?
I forget what the rhyme was. Dang it. But
that is another one.
That is another one. Because we were at my mom's Christmas party one year and we were all singing it. And then someone was like, that's not it. It's you put the balls in my top and out of my mouth they will pop. And I was like, that's the dumbest. That's not it. That's such a... Who would write that rhyme? You put the balls in my top, out of my mouth, they will pop. I was like, no, that's not it. That was it. That is it.
Well, that's like the Mandela effect, is things that have changed. There's a lot of like movie lines that people remember collectively a certain way. To me, the Fruit of the Loom one is the one that like hits home for me, because I'm like, I'm a cornucopia person. Like, I believe I can
I do picture
see the old logo with the cornucopia on the side. And I've even seen pictures on the internet, which of course, could be made up, where people have like old pairs of underwear and there's a cornucopia on them, unless it was photoshopped,
Right.
because the whole thing is like, we doubt our own like eyes and memory, but we collectively share a memory that's
I feel
odd.
like that happened. The Mandela effect actually happens a lot with people dying, where like when they die, everybody's like, didn't they already die? I feel like that has happened more than one time. So is that a conspiracy?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like,
you're saying that Fruit of the
falls
Loom
into the realm of things people consider in the conspiracy theory realm, but I don't think it's really like, I don't think there's a group of people necessarily conspiring to remove the cornucopia or something. I don't know. It's also the Shazam Sinbad movie, and so basically a whole bunch of people, I am also one of these people, remember a Sinbad movie called Shazam with Sinbad. Well, there is no Sinbad movie with Shazam. There's a Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh.
And I remember...
There's no Shazam?
I remember a Shazam with Sinbad specifically. And I know the difference between Sinbad and Shaquille O'Neal. Like, I grew up like they were popular guys in that same period of time. I acknowledge that.
Oh, that's
but
funny.
I remember the difference between them. But so that's like another one. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on the Mandela effect, but it does fall into the realm of conspiracy. I think it was brought up. And again, it is a very funny and thought-provoking thing.
Collective amnesia.
Or delusion. Or
delusion.
If you're conspiratorial...
Is it an MK Ultra?
Yeah, they're like trying to get us all. I mean, something.
Brilliant. What is MK Ultra? While we're
oh gosh, I'm not prepared to go into.
Just give a flyby.
Basically, it is a legitimate. This is not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
This is well documented. It was a government research project that they say is discontinued, but more than likely, it's a government research project on mind control. They say it was discontinued. I believe MK Ultra was discontinued. I believe that it's been ramped up higher and more than ever under different names that we're probably completely unaware of. There's a few others that other people might be aware of, kind of, but there's a lot of documentation, and they would do just like wild and crazy things, sexual experiments on people. They've actually used it in movies. If you've ever seen a movie, multiple movies have done this, where like they strap someone down in a chair in a dark room and then play like images and sounds. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Like that's legit. That actually comes from MK Ultra like documents. The fact that it's not
It's torture.
That's not life imitating art. That's art imitating life there. So those movies that do that are actually drawing from actual things that happen.
We can tie this into this episode because a conspiracy theory is RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr. Nope.
Robert F. Kennedy.
F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
Kennedy.
JFK's
the first
brother.
One, was killed by supposedly, well, I think it is true. He was killed by Sirhan Sirhan, right?
Sirhan Sirhan, yeah.
Sirhan Sirhan.
Yep.
Which Sirhan Sirhan doesn't have a memory of killing him, right?
I don't know if he does or not. I used to be better read on this. I'm just like rusty, but I have...
What I remember of it, true, we could look it up and talk about it more, but what I remember of it is he is seen, I think he's maybe even on video shooting him. So it's not like he didn't shoot him. He did shoot him, but he doesn't have a memory of it. And there's lots of footage of this, I think it's a woman that is with him constantly that day. And even weeks leading up to this day, she's seen with him. And of course, the conspiracy theory is that she was his handler and that he
MK Ultra handler.
That he was under mind control. And during the shooting, she gave him whatever, it's kind of like the Born Identity, right? Like whatever cue word that would send you into some sort of a hypnotic state where you were pre-programmed to do an action. He did. He shot RFK, and then wasn't he, just like JFK, shot when he was being like perp walked? Wasn't Sirhan Sirhan?
No,
he
Sirhan.
wasn't.
No, he went to a mental institution and has proclaimed his innocence.
He's still alive.
That's a good question. I think he might be. I'm not sure. But he has always maintained his innocence, and he has, on multiple occasions when he's had the opportunity, said that he was under mind control. So again, that is what a crazy person would say. So it's so fitting and easy to, so like when,
but
even
MK
when
Ultra is a real thing. So that's not deniable. It's just, was it used in this particular instance?
And here's the thing with conspiracies too, because I do want to again, I'm not saying I'm an expert conspiracy theorist, but I have some maturity with it, or have developed some maturity with it, where you will likely never prove beyond a shadow of a doubt these things, because that is just the nature of the situation. However, when you look at these things this crazy guy shot Robert Kennedy, he's proclaiming his innocence, he is claiming to be under mind control. Now that's a wild thing to say.
It's not something
in the
people generally
60s.
say.
I think it was not that long, 2 years after Kennedy or JFK. But when you look at it and you go, okay, we also know how strong the evidence was that JFK was taken out, right? By, we're not really sure, but the highest levels of something took him out, right? And then his brother, who was on the same track, who was doing the same for the same reasons why those very powerful entities wanted John F. Kennedy dead, Robert F. Kennedy also needed to be dead to those same people. And just so happens he gets unalived. And so it's one of those, that's not proof.
How far apart were those?
I think it was 2 years. I could be wrong. But that's not proof of anything. But you have to draw those lines.
Right.
And you draw a few of those lines and things start to stick together. And here's the thing, by being a well-read conspiracy theorist, in 1965, Sirhan Sirhan being under mind control was absolutely lunatic to believe. But you learn more and more about the MK Ultra that happened in the 70s that was disclosed. And actually, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, is like in documents of having taken part in MK Ultra experiments in Berkeley when very, very, very smart guy. He was like a University of Chicago, UC Berkeley, master's doctorate, all that stuff. He was a mathematician. He was probably a certified genius, right? And he got tied up into some of this stuff voluntarily, I believe. But when you hear some of the stuff that's been disclosed about what they were doing to people in the 70s, all of a sudden, if you go back a chapter in history, you go,
like,
they were
already doing that.
Maybe they were already doing it in the 60s if they were doing this in 1980. You start to tie those things together, and again, you will not be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, but
they remain theories.
They remain theories, but I believe to actually see the world clearly and for the reality closer to reality than the narrative we're given, that
you have to engage some crazy thoughts.
The anecdotal evidence is stronger and closer to reality than the narrative you're fed, right? Yeah. And that is the benefit of being a conspiracy theorist.
So JFK was killed by what's his name? Supposedly
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald, who was killed on his perp walk
by Jack Ruby.
Okay. Who else was killed? Who else's assassin was killed on their perp walk?
Who else's assassin was killed on their perp walk? Can't think of one right now.
Gosh. Okay. The other similarity that I thought of is RFK being shot and Sirhan Sirhan doesn't remember it. Isn't it true that the Aurora theater shooter, this is going back. Do you remember the Aurora theater
I know
shooter?
The Aurora shooting theater very well.
He's one of the random shooters that doesn't shoot themselves, right? They almost always shoot themselves.
He walked out the back, right, pretty much right into police officers' hands.
Wasn't he like in the parking lot and like didn't remember?
Yeah, and if you've seen him, since which it's so hard to follow up with these guys. And interestingly enough, what is the stance that we have been fed to take on society as a society for these people? Don't even say their name. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not even going to say their name because that name doesn't deserve to be, they want the notoriety. We're not even going to give it to them. So most of these people, their names are attainable. Like that guy's name is James something. I'm pretty sure any other day I'd know. But either way, it's interesting though that they just disappear into the judicial system when they don't suicide themselves immediately. And that is not always what we should be doing. And frankly,
Charlie's a big advocate of that.
And I don't know if this is
ironic.
I'm not saying we should be giving them their time in the spotlight, but actually, I definitely want them studied. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I absolutely want the best psychologists in the world to have access to them. You know what I mean? That's not bad. We need to understand what's going wrong with when one of these guys doesn't kill themselves. We need to get a hold of that guy and figure out where things went wrong so we can start to address specifically what is wrong in culture, assuming this is actually a natural phenomenon and not mind control.
That guy,
shooters or
whatever
something.
His name didn't have a memory. Same as Sirhan Sirhan, didn't have a memory of doing this event, but of course was caught essentially in the action of doing it. You know, like you said, walked out of the theater with the gun, and you were going to say, if you see him since, isn't he like too drugged to like stand trial? Like there was delays in his trial because he was always so sedated when they would bring him in for whatever they do pre-trial. I entertain some wild ideas.
I do think that he falls into the category of a prime suspect of a MK Ultra type mind control shooter. And we can on another episode we can dive into like specifically this topic, but I think they chemically lobotomized him immediately after apprehension. And see, that's something with Lee Harvey Oswald, like they had to deal with him, and chemically lobotomizing him would have just been just as suspicious, and maybe they didn't have the confidence in those drugs, and it would have looked weirder or something. I don't know, but maybe that wasn't an option back then. But nowadays, it definitely is. And you can basically just hollow out a man's mind and put that shell of a human being on trial. And for everything, for all the horrible acts he clearly committed, there's no doubt about that.
And he doesn't offer up a defense.
And he'll never, post Sirhan Sirhan, if you think about, if that's true, if the weak point of that story was that he was ever able to utter the words, I had a handler that used a trigger word, that I lost consciousness and, whatever, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I came to, if you don't ever want that to get out again, then you need some sort of like, either they need to kill themselves or they need to be chemically lobotomized immediately upon arrest or apprehension.
Is so convenient. Feels like an insensitive word, but it is so convenient that all of these mass shooters end up dead at the end of the day, almost always. It's like, well, we can't ask any questions. The case is almost closed right then, and that I don't even really want to go into it because it's so insensitive. But the Sandy Hook one is another one where there's a lot of, pieces that do not fit together. And ironically, that is not one that comes up very often. Like that is one that is like people are afraid to talk about.
What's interesting is Alex Jones got sued for $1.6 billion or something.
The biggest settlement that's ever been.
Over claiming that was a hoax. And you have to understand, like Alex Jones was so confident that, he was willing to keep saying it all, pretty much all the way to the end. And he could have just been like, no, okay, I don't know, and backed off. But
there is just not, the pieces of that one are really strangely fitting together. And it almost never comes up. It's like the most atrocious one.
Well, there's some really good...
You would think it would live in infamy. Like, people would talk about it all the time. I feel like Columbine comes up more than Sandy Hook. And Sandy Hook was like lots of kids. That was really, really an egregious one that doesn't quite gel the narrative the way that it's.
Yeah, that one is really weird.
Don't sue me. I'm not saying it's a hoax. I'm just saying.
I think, there's a documentary called We Need to Talk About Sandy Hook.
We should watch that again.
And there are some very, very interesting things. And again, it begs so many questions, you guys, of like, the first rational thing to say is like, why would someone fake that? Or why would I agree wholeheartedly. Like those are the hard questions to answer. But I will say there are some very, very, very odd things about that
one in particular.
Again, Sandy Hook isn't at the top of my list. I don't spend a ton of time dwelling on that, but I understand why people go down that rabbit hole. And if you go down that rabbit hole, you're really going down a lot of the school shooting rabbit hole stuff. And
I think there's a very obvious reason why they would fake it, or why they would send a MK Ultra guy with a gun into a theater. Like, I think there's obvious reasons why, because we want to disarm our society. So, and there's no coincidence that every single time there's a mass shooting, we have gun control debates and there's legislation put forward and blah, blah, blah. So of course there is a reason why these things would be faked or not even faked, but like set up to happen.
Well, and that's what you have to, like with 9/11, we talked about this. You really have to define the parameters of like what in the 9/11 conspiracy. That's one a lot of people are more familiar with. You have
Which we did a whole podcast on.
there are people that believe there were no planes and these are holograms or edited videos, and then there's the people more like myself that are in the category of, oh, there were planes, but we knew that it was coming, and we just said, oh gosh, we'll gain more. Not we, but like the deep state, the intelligence agencies, the administration said, we'll gain more by going to war over this than if we stopped it. Like, I know this is going to be terrible, but like, you guys, we're going to be filthy rich, you know, and they let it happen.
We could get away with Building 7. We could do all of these things. LinkedIn.
We can bomb the Pentagon and
get rid of
explain where that $2.3 trillion we misplaced went. Oh, we don't know because it got burned up in that bombing, you know, whatever. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of that stuff. So it's like, you first kind of have to go, you know, what is the spectrum here? And again, what is actually plausible and what is just like ridiculous?
I mean, that's like we were saying with Charlie. It's like we don't have to go to the most ridiculous end of the road, you know, conspiracy theory to go, yeah, there's a conspiracy. This isn't, it didn't go down the way we're being told it went down, but also he is dead. Like there's, you know, the conspiracy, he's not dead, blah, blah. I'm like, no, we don't have to go that far to believe that the narrative is not what we're being.
Well, and also, I mean, again, the Sandy Hook thing, but jumping back to that for a second, like it might play a role if you were studying like all of the suspicious school shootings, but in and of itself, all on its own, I just only have so much time for it as a conspiracy theory where like 9/11 caused us to go to spend $20 trillion into debt, you know, shed the greatest American blood for no reason, get tied up in affairs and nations and nation building that we never should have, and basically almost be the catalyst for the ruination of our nation. That's a big one, you know, like.
See, I think that the Sandy Hook one, like I said, it was so egregious, and it, again, if we do end up at a place, to your point, where we are disarming our population over mass shootings, that would be a very relevant one to look at. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, and there was a string of them during the Obama administration, and we could go over the Aurora one. Honestly, the Aurora one is just as...
Yeah, Aurora and Sandy Hook are the most sus ones.
Yeah, and side note, I know this is, I just have to bring it up because it's, but like the Aurora, I've talked about the dispatch tapes for like 9/11. The dispatch tapes for Aurora are just absolutely incredible. Again, and it's horrifying and graphic, and yet as a piece of American history, love it, hate it, be disgusted by it. It's absolutely incredible because, mind you, you know, we're still in we didn't have a plan, you know, like, unfortunately we have plans for these things now, but remember in Columbine, the police and firemen stayed outside and just literally let them go. And then the tactics eventually slowly changed where, okay, police officers are to wait for maybe a partner or two, and then they go and put the threat down as quickly as possible. And Aurora was still in, you know, not all of that spread immediately, but fire and EMS, it was not working as seamlessly with police for these things because we were kind of separate. Like, police have their calls and fire has their calls. And it was a Aurora, Colorado, that shooting was like a breaking point for the fire service and police service in relation to just stepping up our ability to respond to those that type of event. It was pretty incredible.
Weren't you a part of that in Tahoe?
In where I worked, we developed, and again, this would have been in 2010 or 11 or something like that, where we were actually developed a response. And this was like, I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but we weren't the only ones doing it, but it was every departments, police and fire, sheriff, had to figure out how we were going to do this better than just everybody working on their own. And so we were one of the first departments in the nation to move to a model where paramedics and firefighters go in with police officers to what we would call like the hot zone. Like it's not safe. There's an active shooter.
But you're able to give care.
And we start treating and triaging and removing patients literally like under fire, so to speak, or in the threat zone and getting them out whenever and wherever possible. We adopted the Las Vegas model, which Las Vegas was like...
Oh, that's another
I've got it on the list,
shady shooting.
And they kind of spearheaded that as well. So we just sort of adopted their model, and then we actually exercised it more than once with like full on, you know, patients and high school kids with fake gunshot wounds and all that. It's wild that we have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really truly believe that there's more to that story than meets the eye. You know, it's not as simple as just a gun culture. I do think there's actually some pretty horrifying capabilities that are out there. We should do an episode just literally on that whole thing, from the SSRIs to the MK Ultra to the school shootings, just like that whole big picture, because there's so many odd common threads that don't add up.
And there is very clearly an agenda being pushed, an anti-gun agenda. And to use Jay Jones, his own point, that people aren't moved on policy until kids die. That's what he said.
Right.
So, I mean, if he's going to say it and then not deny it, and people are going to vote for him, hey.
I almost feel like we might have to go a little bit long on this one and just let people decide.
We've only begun.
Should I kind of hit a few and see, like...
I mean, we've kind of talked about 9/11. We already did a whole podcast about that, so I would refer those.
These are in no particular order, but the Oklahoma City bombing.
I feel like that is also in and of itself a whole episode, because that's Ruby Ridge and Waco and the Oklahoma City bombing. They go together.
Well,
do you know that?
From a conspiracy theory standpoint, they are also separate. Ruby Ridge isn't so much a conspiracy. That's just
I mean, it folds into, I guess...
Well, basically, the Oklahoma City bombing one, there's actually people that believe that Timothy McVeigh is alive and well today. He's actually an FBI agent.
What?
Oh, yeah. And that he's the guy who got framed for it, but was not ever, like, it was a government hit job.
Never heard
a false flag.
What came of it? Like, what was it? False flag? Like, what came after that?
Well, it was during, again, this is...
Well, pause. What's a false flag?
A false flag is where a government intentionally attacks its own people in order to blame a particular party and manipulate the population to think or do something. So like 9/11 was a false flag,
yes,
where the whole point was we're going to let these Islamic terrorists blow up these towers, and then we're going to get to go to war for 20 years and spend $20 trillion.
Okay. So what did they get by blaming Timothy McVeigh?
That was during a time where it was like the anti-right wing, trying to label the right as extremists. The militia thing was huge back then. And
Which is why Ruby Ridge ties into that.
I want to say there was something around there being some records for Bill Clinton's investigations, because that was there was FBI office there, all that stuff. But that actually ties into Waco, because the conspiracy in the Branch Davidian compound, and this I was thinking about the other day.
Pause before we go into Waco. Briefly, what is Ruby Ridge? Since we've said that a couple of times, people maybe don't know.
Gosh, I was not prepared to talk on Ruby Ridge.
Sorry, just
I forget the guy's name even. Ruby Ridge was a family.
Thomas, wasn't it? Thomas something?
No, maybe. I don't know. No, it wasn't Thomas.
It starts with a W. His last name.
I feel bad. Either way, Ruby Ridge was a family that was pretty radical.
Right-wing
radical that moved out into the mountains in Idaho. And
radical in their beliefs.
Had ties to the Aryan Nation. And the government kind of entrapped the father into some charges.
Weaver.
Right? Yes. Good job.
Thank you.
Randy Weaver.
Thank you.
Strong work, honey.
Whoa.
And long story short, the government came to
Confiscate
arrest Randy, and
because of some sawed-off shotguns, right? It was the ATF.
they got him to agree to make them
right.
some sawed-off shotguns,
He was entrapped.
and it took like a year and a half to convince him of this. It was like
3 years, they said.
3 years. Yeah, 3 years of convincing this guy, just please make us this is a federal agent
Trying to get
basically
this guy.
begging and bribing a guy to make sawed-off shotguns.
For 3 years.
Which sawed-off shotguns are illegal. They have to have at least an 18-inch barrel. And if you cut them down below that, it's a felony. And so he was like this federal agent for 3 years until Randy Weaver eventually gave in, I guess, allegedly. But that the government actually decided that was entrapment in the trial that occurred afterwards. But long story short,
He was dead, so it didn't matter. But
they started observing him from a distance. Well, a friend of theirs, his name was Kevin Harris, and the son.
How'd you remember that?
I've learned that for a long time. But the son, I forget his name, was like 12 years old or something.
Yeah.
And they were out with the dog, and the dog found these agents that were like
in the
sneaking
woods.
up on them in the woods and started barking at them. They killed the dog, and then the
agents killed the dog.
Agents killed the dog, and then either the kid or this Kevin Harris fired at these strangers in the woods who failed to identify themselves.
And shot their dog.
And the agents killed this 12-year-old boy, shot him in the back.
Ugh.
And luckily, and I will say luckily, the boy and Kevin Harris managed to kill one of those agents. And then later on, a few days, so now, the family's absolutely freaked out. They've got a dead little boy, and Kevin Harris was wounded. And then I believe
there's like a siege that happens after.
We're getting way too deep into this.
Multiple days.
Oh yeah, it was like 12 days long or something.
Yeah.
But at one point, the FBI sniper team got rules of engagement to where any armed male could be shot. Well, long story short, they shot through the cabin door and shot Randy's wife while she was holding their infant in the head and killed her.
Didn't they kill the infant too? I think the infant also got shot.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it's bad enough.
It's awful.
This was an
awful story.
unarmed woman. That is definitively
and they're in
proven.
a standoff for days.
And the end result, actually, unfortunately, the sniper, the FBI sniper, something Yataki or something, a Japanese name, but he ended up not getting charged for killing the mom. Of course not. He'll get what's coming to him someday.
Ancient of days.
And the family actually sued the government, all this stuff, and won. They won a large lawsuit. Back then, a couple $1 million was a lot of money. But basically, the government took a wrist slap on that one, that they had done it all wrong. They entrapped Randy Weaver. They shot a 12-year-old boy in the back, and they killed, literally the only people they killed was a child and a unarmed woman with a baby in her arms.
They might have killed the baby.
They might have killed the baby too. I'm not sure if that's the case, but you're talking.
It's awful.
They didn't kill the two armed men, like the grown military-aged males that were fine, but they killed a 12-year-old boy and a unarmed woman. And so, but remember, when your government comes and does that, all they end up doing is paying a couple $1 million, and the agents walk free, and American society generally forgets about it. Mm-hmm. Not this guy, though.
I know the name.
That's good. That's good.
Heck yeah.
But keeping on with it.
That plays into Waco, which is what you're going to talk about next.
Okay,
Ruby
Waco.
Ridge happened how far before Waco?
Like a year or something, or I can't remember. But the Waco conspiracy is different. So basically, remember Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas prior to being the president of the United States.
Correct.
Well, he had a bunch of sexual scandals.
You don't say.
That even before, I forget those ladies' names, they were all over the news for 5 years. You know what I mean?
The blonde one.
And this is pre, what's her face?
Paula.
Yes, Paula something.
Look at me with these names.
But so basically, the agents that were sent to Waco, some of the agents that were sent to Waco, there's famous footage. And this is actually how I was introduced to conspiracy theories. When I was thinking about it the other day, this was after we did that episode about like 9/11 being the foundation, but it was planted in me at a young age, no doubt. There was a VHS going around called, I think it was like the firefighter tapes or the fireman tapes. And this is pre-internet, right? So like conspiracy theories and videos, like literally you had to like make a copy of a VHS tape and share it with somebody to like get the word out.
Can share an Instagram reel.
But these guys, like two of them were Arkansas state troopers that were assigned to Bill Clinton's detail as his governor detail.
Okay.
And they guarded Bill Clinton, and they were outside of these hotel rooms when he would have do these deeds with these women. And there is a video clip of them climbing on, and it just so happens these two guys, it might have been three, but it was at least two, get sent to Waco as part of an ATF raid on this place. And there is literally video of these two guys climbing up the ladder onto the first story roof
During
and then
the siege of the house.
during the firefight, like in the full mess of the battle. And they go into a window, both of them go diving in, and then literally the third guy behind them just literally fully sprays automatic gunfire into the window right behind them. And
they did.
I believe if at least one, if not both of them, died. I can't remember for sure, but
conveniently.
But that's the conspiracy, and I'm a little rusty on it. It was a long time ago.
That's one conspiracy having to do with Waco.
Sure, that's one element. But
so the tie. Let's go back and talk about what Waco is briefly, because Waco's a whole episode.
I don't even know if we need to do that.
Well, it is curious to me because going back to Oklahoma City bombing, that's why I said it should be its own episode. The conspiracy, or part of what supposedly activated Timothy McVeigh, was seeing Ruby Ridge happen, and then
No, it was the other way around. It was at Waco, right?
I thought Ruby Ridge happened first. Ruby Ridge, and then he was at Waco, and he was like, "Oh my gosh!" Because in Waco,
you're right. I think, yeah.
Yes, I know I'm right, because the ATF went to do this raid on the Branch Davidians.
That's right.
And they had already had their wrists slapped in, Ruby
Ridge. And
it was like
Timothy McVeigh was pissed, assuming he was who they say he was.
But it was like, you can't mess this one up. And then they messed it up so atrociously. They're literally taking a tank through a building into a house full of women, children, and men. Under the guise of we're doing a raid and you have weapons
and they
in
also,
there, supposedly.
The other thing the fireman tape showed was flamethrower tanks.
Yeah.
So they were actually, they were actually driving into the building and spraying flamethrowers. Now, the official government
Knowing
story...
there was women and children.
The government denies that to this day.
They didn't know there was women and children in there.
No. Well, they might kind of deny that too. But the government denies the flamethrowing tanks.
Oh, yeah. That's
They say that they threw gas in and the gas ignited possibly. But they don't take responsibility for that per se. It just is what it is kind of thing.
Now, we also are, the narrative is that David Koresh was this cult leader and abusing children in there. And maybe that's true. Or maybe, again, this is all conspiracy, maybe they were just doing their own thing and the government needed to villainize him and these people. You know what I mean? Like, that also is an element.
They were building up the right-wing extremist,
anti-government,
folks during that time.
Right.
And then also maybe they were trying to get an event where they could kill off some of Clinton's bodyguards, or maybe that was just convenient, or maybe that's not true. I don't know. But
So these two events, Ruby Ridge and Waco, supposedly radicalized Timothy McVeigh to go do the
Timothy
Oklahoma City.
McVeigh is on video selling anti-government paraphernalia like a mile away from the Waco siege.
So that
he
went
was
on for
present there.
40-something days.
That was a long time. Yeah.
Where there's a standoff between the
I
federal
remember that
government.
as a kid. And I was rooting for
There's
one
some
of the
good
sides.
documentaries on Waco as well, if you want to go down that road.
But I think it would be fun to like hit more and then just like see what people resonated with, and we can do deeper dives on some of these other subjects. But we did the Oklahoma bombing, Waco, the Mandela effect. There's a huge conspiracy around Benghazi that is, we almost should just save a specific episode for that, because Benghazi and ISIS go together. The Ukraine war, Benghazi and ISIS all go together. There's flat Earth and the ice wall.
There's flat Earth and the ice wall.
Are we really a globe? Or
Tom obviously is absolutely unwilling to entertain this. That's
not true. I've entertained it, and I'm not able to get into it much more. I have absolutely entertained it.
I will say I was very that's ridiculous, unwilling to entertain it. Honestly, until this was maybe 2020, I guess. In 2020, everything unraveled, right? I think Joe Rogan said this, and it perfectly sums up what happened in 2020. He's like, before 2020, I was like, vaccines are the best invention that ever happened in the world. And now I'm not even sure we landed on the moon. That's exactly what happened in 2020. So before 2020, I think we watched a documentary called Flat Earth. Was that in 2020? I feel like it was during the time where we were could do nothing, we were on lockdown or whatever.
We weren't on lockdown.
I know, but where
nobody
nothing
locked
was
me
happening.
down.
Nothing was happening, so we watched a lot of movies. I think we watched Flat Earth during that point. I think it was called Flat Earth, but it was actually after that movie, which was made such a point of mocking the flat earthers and making it so absurd to think, no, hold on.
Okay.
That I was like, wait a minute. Why did you put out a movie? I immediately viewed it as propaganda.
I'm suspicious.
Now that you've gone out of your way to be show me this experiment, how they prove the earth is round. And then now I'm more skeptical.
But didn't they the ending of that movie was these guys out with a spotlight with a board with a hole in it at the very end, and literally their experiment failed.
Right.
Which
but
proved...
have you gone out and done this for yourself? No.
Me?
You.
No, you're right. And I'm glad you brought that up.
That's
because
why I'm
waiting for somebody to cross Antarctica with the Flat Earth GoFundMe.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you also are it's been proven that it is round. And I'm somebody put a video out that they did an experiment, and then I've never seen anybody else do it. You'd think there'd be tons of those going around Instagram disproving all these flat earth people. And the only time I've ever seen it is in that documentary. Now, again, it's very likely that you can do this
I've seen a lot of
and
videos.
It's fine.
And I think it is this is my best. People say, I've been up in a plane and I can't see the curve of the earth.
When he says people, that's me. I say that.
No, well, you're not the only one.
I say that every
I'm
time.
not saying it's only
and
you.
It's true.
People
I
say
can't
that.
see a curve.
But what I think I don't know what the term for it is, but it's a failure to grasp the scale of God's creation here. Because when I take our globe...
No. Because I know what you're going to say. You're going to say this is how far off the earth you actually are, so you can't even perceive the earth curve.
Okay.
But then you tell me you can see it.
No, I'm
from an
saying
airplane.
that I actually feel like I can see, but it's the slightest convex.
Okay, so which is it, Tom? Is it that you're not far enough up to view the curvature?
Well, you're not going to go
or I feel like I see it.
What I'm saying is at 40,000 feet, you're not going to look down on a basketball. You know what I mean?
Of course not.
Yeah.
But also, if you Google how high up do you have to be in order to see the curvature of the earth, you're supposed to see it
And that's
that
what
point.
I'm saying is but when you say supposed to see it, like barely to the naked eye, or like you're supposed to see like the round, because when I'm telling you, the globe is the globe, like the old globes you have in the classroom, we have one in our room still. And it's the perfect thing because you look at it and you go, okay, on this globe, the sharpest pencil tip wouldn't even be 40,000 feet above the earth. So you're literally on the surface of the globe still, and you're expecting to see the curve of the globe that you're literally like a pencil
Tom,
tip off of.
either
That's
you
what-
can't see it, which means you also can't see it, or you do feel like you see it. You speak out of both sides of your mouth.
No,
On this.
because it's
You're
one of
saying
those.
that you feel like you see it when you're
No,
in an airplane.
So okay, I'm hiking around in the dark, and I go, I think I can make out a figure of a deer on the horizon there. It's not very bright, but I think I can see an animal out there, but I can just only barely make it out.
Compelling.
I'm just it's
Compelling evidence.
I can barely tell that it's there. I'm not even sure if of what I'm seeing is
I
real
agree
or
with you.
not.
Yes.
But I think I'm seeing something. That's what I'm saying. Is like I feel like I can
So-
see it, but for all I know, it's the curve of the dang airplane glass. You know what I mean? I don't
So
know.
what we're going on is I feel like I think I can see it.
Well,
I feel like I think I can see it.
I'm just acknowledging there are variables there that are
Tom, what you
difficult
should say to me when I'm like, I can't see the curve of the earth, you should go, yeah, that's because you're not far enough off the earth to see the curvature. But then you go, but I can see it. I could see it a little bit.
But that's not what I said. I didn't say,
think
but I
I-
can see it, but you can't see it. I said,
feel like I think
there
I
are
can see
times when in certain places where I have like,
it. The listeners are getting my point.
I think the listeners are getting our
understanding my
points. Our points.
There's a lot of here's what I'll say about the flat earth. If you had your own experience of being on earth, okay,
Okay.
and the Bible, you would conclude the earth is flat.
I think that's a whole episode worth taking on. And I'm not a big
Is that fair
fan
to
of
say?
flat earth, but I would take a biblical look at flat earth
Oh,
or whatever.
we
earth,
will.
round
Let's do that.
earth.
Let's do that. We will
Okay.
come back on a different episode and take a biblical look at the round earth because flat earth, round earth, flat earth.
Both favorites.
Both favorites.
Can
because
we-
they do that is the angle that most flat earthers will take, is that, and this is where I come from with, I believe, and I believe I've convinced you, that the earth is young, that it is not millions and billions of years old. In fact, it is about 6,000-ish years old. That is what I believe. I believe I can absolutely prove it with scripture. And no one can prove that it's millions of years old. There's only an estimate of the age of the earth. There's not a factual, the earth was birthed on this day. So I feel like I know I can prove it with scripture that the earth is young. So I feel like that is where the reason why that's important to me is I don't have to look to science as my compass or my guide. I look at scripture as my compass and my guide.
Sure.
And then I go, if science has in some way disproven, my perception is that science has some way disproven something that the Bible says, which has not happened, by the way, then I don't immediately jump to, well, science is right, and so I have to find a way for science to fit into this Bible. Does
Right.
that make sense? We have to resist the urge to do that. So I think that's actually a very fair way to look at it, is what is the scriptural evidence for flat earth or round earth, if there is such. But that is the angle that most people come at it with when they are putting forth a sound argument about flat earth, is what scripture says. Namely, the fact that we're going to all see at the same time Jesus' return, like visually with our eyes. Can you explain that to me?
explain that?
Jesus returning, and we're all going to be able to see him visually at the same time.
Well, I think there's more than one explanation for it than like us being on a flat Earth. I
Tell
think,
me.
well, like heaven, and there's a fifth dimension of just like he could just peel open the heavens, so to speak, and be literally in front of all of us at once. Like I just
Sure,
don't.
if
I
we're
don't.
flat.
I don't think
easy.
it. I don't think it needs. It has to need physical matter to behave a certain way at that point. Like when God, we are literally God's like computer program software. Like he can show up in the sky to everyone at one time. I don't. That's not even worth arguing to me or like worrying
You just
about.
don't accept the limitations that currently exist in nature.
When God comes back to
We can only see the sun
basically say this
one at a time.
paradigm is over with, yeah, he's going to peel back the clouds, the
But that's
sky,
not how
and
it
show
says
up.
it's going to do it. Like, it doesn't speak at all about
That's
the
going to
paradigm
be good
ending.
for our flat Earth episode,
Okay, we'll come
biblical
back.
flat Earth
Come back
episode.
to that.
Another
Again, for the record, I am not convinced of flat Earth, but I am absolutely willing to entertain it and love looking at evidences. Please send them.
I am entertained by it also.
You are entertained by it.
I'm just kidding. We got directed energy weapons, the DO.
I don't know much about that. Well, I will say I do know that's what they suppose Maui might have been about.
Well, it's one of those things where a while back, this actually kind of goes along with chemtrails. For a while, directed energy weapons were just a theory, a conspiracy theory. And now, like, I believe the Air Force has a in service, like in the fleet, directed energy weapon. It's still in its early stages in that, like, you have to put it on a massive cargo-sized plane because it like has to charge. It's like a laser kind of thing with massive batteries or
Does
something
this
like
exist,
that.
or we
No, it
don't
actually
know?
exists.
It does exist.
It's like actually been rolled out, and allegedly it's in its early stages. But for years it was like, no, nobody has this. This isn't real. You know, like, what are you talking about? Like it is actually. Not only is it plausible, but there are actually acknowledged things of this nature. Now, I don't necessarily believe that Maui, Lahaina was burned by directed energy weapons.
That's
and
what
that,
it would be for, though.
that
That's what this
can't
thing
burn
is.
blue roofs. Like, I don't necessarily believe that. Do I believe there is the capability
Can
of
you
a
give
directed
context
energy?
here? Because what is a directed energy weapon? And
Basically, like lasers from the sky.
the purpose of them would be to
start fires
Okay.
or intensify fires.
Okay.
And so, some of these fires that are happening in the West, people are like, these cars are burned, or this car is burned, and then right next door, the house isn't burned at all and stuff. And again, with my experience in the fire service, I have seen, and pretty much any firefighter who's been on a wildland fire will attest to this, that yeah, there are times when every inch is scorched, and then there are the weirdest anomalies that you can't quite explain when you're walking back through it after the wall of fire has passed, the fire front's passed, and there's like a house standing there untouched. And you don't, there's a lot of potential explanations, but it doesn't mean that the directed energy weapons missed it. You know what I mean? There's so much more to it. So I do believe
the agenda would be that, like, climate change, because that's what they're always blaming fires on.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what the agenda
every
would
time
be
there's
there.
a record-breaking fire, it's climate change.
Well, obviously,
and not-
it's like this is a weird, I'm not saying I believe this, but like, what was the Palisades, multi, literally billions of dollars worth of homes, right? All these homes were like $20 million homes, and there was 10,000 of them that burned. So, there's no other way to move a population out of that neighborhood like that other than scorching the earth.
Right.
But that's a pretty extreme conspiracy theory to believe. You know what I mean?
Well,
now,
Lahaina's weird too.
I'm not saying, who knows?
Because we go there every year, and they have not even bulldozed. It's not rebuilt. Not even an iota of Lahaina is being rebuilt. They haven't even cleared the properties.
They've rebuilt it in all these weird ways. Like all of downtown Lahaina 3 years later, right? Or two, do we say three?
Two
It'll
and a
be
half
3 years
years,
later,
yeah.
is absolutely untouched. It's still fences up and
It's
piles
actually
of
guarded
rubble.
by police.
Yeah, no, well,
You
security.
can't drive
Yeah.
through there.
Well, you could drive through some of it, but not others. We actually did. So
Yeah,
we
we
have
tried
seen
to.
this with our own eyes. We visited every January for the last, for years, and it is unchanged. And so they have built these like townhomes and apartments, like high density housing, but like all these people who still own lots are unable to build. So I think there's another level of potential conspiracy there of just like, is the government using these opportunities to not let people rebuild? I definitely think there's some of that because we've seen it in Lahaina, we've seen it in the Palisades where they're not issuing building permits and all this stuff. So there's definitely that. Did the government cause the fires intentionally? I think that's worth entertaining, but is another level, like it's worth exploring because it is very coincidental or that the reservoir that fed all those hydrants was dry and out of service, for the Palisades. I mean, that's either the horrible coincidence of why it happened or the horrible coincidence of the conspiracy that allowed them to be able to.
Well, I will say that so much, especially out west, of the fire emergencies or record-breaking fires have to do with government's like obsession with the environment and unwillingness to do what needs to be done in forest management and all those other things. And so instead of taking on that responsibility of we did not do the things we needed to do to prevent this, they blame climate change. Or in Lahaina, it does seem that there was a like complete lack of leadership and command over that situation, which resulted in like they actually, there's a lot in Lahaina. They stopped counting deaths, and it's so many more deaths than like they just kind of they stopped counting deaths and left the missing persons at like 1,000. Like there's like 1,000 missing people, and we're just not going to update the death toll and leave it at that.
And again, is that just because they're, to save the embarrassment and the
Absolutely.
risk, or is it something more sinister? I don't know. But I will say, I mean, sometimes we overdo it with the conspiracy stuff because we underestimate just the absolute like
evil of the face value.
Well, no, the power of Mother Nature. Like,
sure,
Mother Nature will burn your town down given the right,
neglect.
Well, no, just the right circumstances and
that's what I mean by neglect.
Environment, right?
Neglecting to do
and
controlled burns, fire floor cleaning.
What was
trees.
What was the fire in Tahoe back in the day?
Angora.
The Angora fire. I'm just blanking out. They didn't let people cut trees and bushes away from their house. The Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, the TRPA, one of the just absolute dumbest organizations, full of unqualified biologists that are there to just self-perpetuate their own little kingdoms and importance for no benefit to the forest or to humans. It's a joke, but either way, 300 and something homes burned down, and all of a sudden you're allowed to cut trees away from your house, and in fact you're required to. So there are things where we get in our own way, and fire doesn't mess around, and it will absolutely
do what it wants.
The
moon landing.
The moon landing.
I'm pretty convinced we didn't land on the moon.
I think that's plausible.
I think it's like most likely because the argument is we lost the technology to go back. We lost the technology to go back. Where did it go? Was it in Building 7?
I would say this. Would you believe it if it happened again? Like if we went back?
We'll see. I'll let you know.
Okay.
But the most compelling argument, as Cadence made today, Cadence being my 14-year-old, is if my internet today, right now in my own home, could not download a reel or upload a reel while also trying to upload a YouTube video, If that capacity isn't existing, how did we broadcast from the moon? Like, we're not even
In
claiming...
1969.
Yeah, we're not even claiming that we went to the moon. We're claiming that we broadcast it back to Earth live for people to
Look,
watch.
there was a delay. Okay.
There was that much cell service where before we didn't have cell phones to talk to the moon. And if you look at the videos and if you look at the pictures, it's like some of my favorite little Instagram content are the little funny moon landing shenanigans.
You have a different
but also,
algorithm
I will
than I
say,
do.
what?
You might have a different algorithm than I do.
I do. Also, when I was teaching my kids about this in homeschool, like we were talking about the history of the space race. I was like, the race to the moon, what's it called? The space race against Russia, where we were trying to exercise this dominance, right? Of like whoever gets to the moon first, like wins this pissing contest. I'm sorry, there's no better word. And when I was teaching that to the kids, I'm like, so we're trying to get to the moon first, blah, blah, blah. They kind of put together for themselves. So of course there would be an incentive for us to lie and say we got there just so that we won. I was like, you're right. There would be. There was.
Well, the Russians made it to space first, which was a little bit of an incentive. Yeah,
supposedly. And then we made it.
Can space be real if the Earth is flat? We don't even know. Okay.
Well, then we made it to the moon and lost the technology, and now we don't have it. We don't have the technology to do it again. And of course,
it is weird that that's what they say. Like,
yeah, that is weird.
Because and also it's weird that like I know the Earth that like the space station is not nearly as far as the moon is, but like it would just be like.
Is there a space station?
Well, let's just assume there is. Okay, I know that's a whole nother.
I'll go with you.
Conspiracy theory there, but like we would just absolutely want to have gone back to the moon. I just can't believe we would have no interest in that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's the dumbest.
Like we would have a moon base, and actually, I believe there are people that believe there is a moon base. Then there's the people that believe like we have never been to the moon, but I have heard that on the dark side of the moon, there's a moon base. I don't know. I'm just regurgitating things I've heard. I don't think there's a lot to that, but
yeah. And gravity to me is a conspiracy theory.
Oh my gosh.
I will say this because yes, I have been explained. Well, I
put that in our promo clip. Gravity to me is a conspiracy theory.
We just learned about Isaac Newton in school, and it is not a law. It is a theory. It is a theory. It is not a law. You keep saying the law of gravity. I'm like, no. It is a theory.
What goes up must come down is a law in my books.
Yes, that is a law, but we don't know why that happens. There's theories as to why that happens, okay? When I was at the Adventure Science Center with my kids, I'm telling you, be a homeschool mom. You're going to be so much more conspiratorial because you're going to learn all this stuff and go, wait, this doesn't make any sense. It totally makes sense when you're an 8-year-old, but now that I'm a grown-up, it doesn't make any sense anymore. And I'm at the Adventure Science Center, and there's this 2 ropes and a piece of wood, okay? Hopefully the listeners can go with me. Think of a swing, okay? 2 ropes and a piece of wood. And you hold the 2 ropes together so there's a triangle. Piece of wood at the bottom and 2 ropes, okay? Then they set a glass of water on the wood, okay? And then they start swinging this around in a circle. And the water, obviously, and the glass stay on the wood, even though it's going upside down. Just like, what's that ride? The Gravitron, okay?
Yeah.
Yep. And they're trying to say this is
aptly named
the Gravitron. They're trying to say this is an example of gravity. And I'm like, no. An example of gravity would be if the glass was on the outside of the wood and was somehow magically sticking to the wood as you're swinging it around. What she was giving me an example of was centripetal force.
Well, hold on. I mean, if this is the globe and I'm on the inside of the spin, I would stay
On the inside, you're on the outside of a globe and it's spinning. And why aren't you flying off? Why
But I'm
aren't
also spinning
centripetal
around the
force?
sun. Okay.
Exactly. You're doing a lot of spinning, and yet here we are, perfectly normal. I'm not sucking to the side of the wall like on the gravitron, aptly named. It doesn't make any sense when you talk about it. And also, people hang off the bottom of the earth. Like Australia down there. They're upside down.
I think those things are all explainable as you get further into homeschooling.
I'm going to bring a globe to to have a visual. So those listening, you're going to want to go to YouTube and watch the video we do on Flat Earth, because I'm going to have a globe so that I can point to how people are at the bottom of the earth and they're hanging off.
Let's dive into that one again. Okay. And we're running out of time. We're already over our normal, but I do want to touch on a couple others. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination.
Did his assassin get shot on a perp block?
No, what happened to his assassin? There was a special forces team. He was shot in Memphis. There was a special forces team in town. Like, oddly, there was a whole bunch of stuff that was weird about that. And obviously, civil rights being at like the a tipping point. I mean, we were almost. There were concerns of like, are we going to have that much more unrest? So much so that could it be Civil War level type stuff over that the civil rights issues? That there were a lot of people who were totally fine with him being dead. There were the hardcore racists. There were the government elements, and personally, I think that. I'm just bringing it up because it is a conspiracy theory that a lot of people entertain in regards to his assassination having more to it. But I think that Lyndon Johnson already had a plan for the Civil Rights Act. You know what I mean? And we should do an episode about that, more about like the political parties, Democrats, Republicans, who was for what. Because that's not a conspiracy, but there is some really rich history in just exactly how.
The conspiracy is that the parties have switched.
Well, not even that. Just the conspiracy was to entrap blacks. It basically instead of enslave blacks, to entrap them in a welfare system that broke down their sovereignty, their individual sovereignty, family structure, break down the fabric of their society, which unfortunately you can make a good argument for it has worked, and that it's a tragedy.
Same with abortion, was targeted specifically at Black communities.
Abortion. I mean, there's a lot of examples. You go into this, deep into this. The CIA imported crack cocaine into Los Angeles. That's documented.
Even rap
There's
culture.
100%. Yeah, the rap culture.
Apparently, rap culture has been used in other countries as part of their destabilization of other countries.
It's basic stuff. Anytime you look at Western civilization. And our value systems. And if you just take a value system of savages and try to get a culture to latch on to it, that is antithetical to the culture that achieves general peace, seeks for prosperity and stability, but you supplant a value system and entice people into a value system that does the opposite of those things, well, what do you think you're going to get? So I think it's way beyond the Martin Luther King thing. It's really the conspiracy and the role our own government played in the destabilization of the Black population in America. There is no doubt. And I think this is worth the tangent. That's where you get the terms like systemic racism, and they're absolutely like, ironically, they came out of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's
And
there. It's just not where you think it is.
yeah, the Stockholm syndrome is so strong in the left now, they don't even realize like they were it, but
They are it.
they are it.
They
But
never stopped being it.
the systemic racism is not in all white people. It's in, or just in the entire system, but it's actually the system of the white liberals. You know, like there is systemic racism, and to this day, now the white liberals are so blinded by it that they are perpetuating a system, and they believe in a system that is actually still the boot on the neck of the black population.
Yeah.
The mantle is now carried by white liberal women for the most part.
Which we did an episode with Naisha. You guys should go back and look. I'll link it actually down below, where she's a black woman who left the left and had this like the veil removed, and she said to this day she's becoming this like massive social media influencer, and she's like, the people that reach out to me and try to get me back into my oppression are white liberal women every time. They're trying to convince her she is oppressed, that she is trapped.
Phenomenal interview.
Yeah.
I really love. She's just got a great energy to her. A phenomenal point of view. I think she's going to go places. The deep underground military bases, the Denver airport stuff.
Oh, Denver airport.
I think that's a really fun one.
Tell us about the Denver airport, Tom.
Oh gosh, there's the deep underground military base element of it, or all of it?
Tell us about the deep military underground element of it.
A lot of people believe that there's these deep underground military bases that are like mile or...
Should we say deep underground military base one more time?
Deep underground military bases. And that they might be interconnected around the country. And I'm honestly not... I used to be a little bit more familiar when I looked into those things of like where the other places that people believe they like pop up, but probably DC... You know, Denver's a big one. NORAD and like the command bunkers for continuity of government are in the Rocky Mountains there in Colorado Springs. So they believe that like the Denver airport is like the surface access for...
Like you could fly into Denver and then go
underground and then get to like Washington, D.C. via like high-speed rail underground.
Fascinating.
To NORAD, which is only really a few miles away, to other places in the nation that have these facilities. I don't know. It's very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they're real, you know, or maybe not in all the ways we think they are or something. Maybe it's more extensive than we know of. Maybe it's less extensive, but I do think there's probably some, you know, it would be silly that our government hasn't created, you know, through the Cold War, that we don't have some pretty substantial underground infrastructural, like transportation facilities. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's
also, there's
plausible.
So much in that airport, like the art, and gosh, I used to be way more familiar with it.
We'll have to look into that.
There's like artwork that is so like obviously like a gas mask, like a Nazi soldier with a gas mask that's like like all
also with like a nuclear explosion going off
and like
behind
all
it
these
and all that.
Scared children and women and stuff this is in a mural on the wall. It's like, what is that?
I think it's gone now.
Oh, really?
I want to say they.
I mean, I could see why they would
did
want that
a revamp
removed.
of the airport. Yeah, it was there for years and years and years though, and there are still some weird things there. But I would say, like, what I would love to hear from the audience is like, did any of these subjects in particular, you know, pique your curiosity? And we could do little deeper dives. I am really excited about the Benghazi, ISIS, Ukraine War 1, how those things all tie together.
Oh, J6.
The Las Vegas shooting, that it falls into the whole, we could look deeper into the mass shooter elements. And then of course, chemtrails,
weather modification.
I mean, the list goes on and on, but if you have any others that we just didn't think of, the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic is a big one.
Somebody told me, I don't know much about that. I need to look into that. You did ChatGPT it.
Well,
what was it?
it hid the theory that I was looking for, which is basically like the people who were going to keep the Federal Reserve from being created
Oh yeah.
were died on the Titanic, which
So
is
that they
interesting.
sank it purposefully. Like they got all these hoity-toits on the boat.
There was a bunch of
and then
people
sank
that
it on
that
purpose.
conveniently died on the Titanic, on the unsinkable ship. Again, interesting stuff.
Marketing, propaganda, always existed. Yeah, we could. I think we have to do a flat Earth episode. That's just going to be so fun to talk about. But yeah, okay. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what we need to talk more about, and if there's conspiracies you liked that we don't talk about.
Definitely, if there's some we haven't heard of or something,
Yeah.
I'm always down
And
for.
send me the videos. I'll watch them. I will watch them, and I'll send
Yes.
the most compelling ones to him. I love it. I think it's great. Subscribe, share, follow. Thanks. Thanks for joining us on the Modern Watchman podcast.
Remember, truth isn't just something we believe, it's something we live out every day.
Stay alert, stay discerning, and don't lose sight of the hope we have in Christ.
Until next time,
Be watchmen.